This is Necro, aka Eric, back at it once out again. Still here at Otakon, still dying in this summer heat. We are here with substantial,
Please.
residential, homegrown talent from over here. I'm going to be lazy. We have a Wikipedia article here for you. Him. Stanley Robinson, known as Substantial, is a hip hop recording artist from Prince George's County, Maryland, and he now operates out of Virginia. Is this accurate, or are we going to have
accurate.
to? Right, we're going to have to sue Wikipedia.
No, still accurate.
All right, let's get it. Let's listen. The DMV area, 100%. Lots of homegrown talent, lots of homegrown rap, and just hard music-based talent coming from out of here.
100%.
You 100% one of those people. Do you feel as if that your upbringing in the area has affected your musical taste, especially how when it comes to like the East Coast sound, especially because let's see, Wikipedia here says age range 44.
Yeah,
we might cut it down.
No. I'm 44.
Right.
Listen. I ain't pretending to be younger than I am. It's a blessing, bro.
Right, it 100% is. Yeah. He's 10 years, actually 11 years, my senior. So we've definitely, both of us, we've gotten our chance to see the fair share of how the rap scene has changed.
Oh yeah.
Him more so than me because he's definitely got to see it from just a up close view. How the East Coast scene, especially how it's transitioned from old school 80s and 90s boom bap rap to the more traditional 808 styles from like the mid 2000s, like ringtone rap, phone rap, and stuff like that, with the beats and whatnot. Now, as of like the late 10s to the 20s, now we have like drill being a major thing. Do you feel that that's now incorporated into your musical style?
I would say with my stuff, I'm still I'm always experimenting with how can I continue take the things that I grew up on, that I love, those sounds that like really molded me into the artist I am, and basically still evolve, right? So there's moments where I'll take some of the newer things, right? So you hear a lot more hip hop now, including that feels more like dance music, right? Where it's like almost like EDM. And then, you saw with Drake where he was taking club music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So these are things that certain projects I worked on I was doing that type of stuff a very long time ago. It just wasn't the stuff I was popular for doing. So in these newer projects now, as we're in this space where music is crossing genres a lot more. Like on one project, you'll get so many different genres. So yeah, I just find myself experimenting and exploring a lot more. So I'm taking I'm still incorporating jazz into what I do. But then there's something on my album a song called Salt and Pepper, right? Where I'm including like Baltimore club music, you know what I mean? As like a foundation of the percussion in that, but still on top of that, having like jazz mixed in. And then even having a piano solo toward the end that feels like video game music, right? So just exploring different ways, man, whatever feels right to me in the moment. I don't kind of get so caught up on what the names are as much as what James Brown says. He's like, but does it feel good, right? Does it feel good?
Does the vibe, is the vibe there?
Yeah, right, and that's what matters most for me. But the foundational hip hop that molded me, that's always going to be a part of what I do. It's classic. So classic stuff it's forever dope when done right. And so it can feel timeless. And so I stay true to that for sure.
Cool. So as many people in here who probably do know of you know your major claim to fame for the anime scene, I would say, is your connections to Nunjabes. Do you feel that, especially now especially with how music has been evolving to incorporate their love of anime, because a lot of like artists now, like you have guys like, say for example, like Famous Dex and whatnot, they're having whole songs going like, oh yeah, like I love anime, I love Japan. They're incorporating sample work from anime.
Sure.
You have now a whole phenomenon on like TikTok that's now also blended into YouTube. You have people who are making their own sort of like down south mashups, chop not slop sort of remixes and whatnot, like the old Pimp C sort of stuff, and they're blending it now with either like anime quotes. They're doing like whole like remixes, like extended intros. That's this, that, and the third. How have you seen like any of that talent? Are you something that's like appealing to you?
Yeah, no, I definitely see a lot of different artists incorporating this stuff, and it's really interesting to see. I think, I mean, it's just, I feel like a lot of the younger artists who are doing it, they're kind of living the dreams of a lot of me and my peers when we were younger. I remember talking with Mega Ran about, you know, being into a lot of this stuff when we were younger, and like,
shout out to Ran.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's the homie. And I remember him saying, he was like, you know, first through the glass gets the bloodiest. You know what I mean? So, you know, talking about like walking so these kids could run, or, you know what I mean, or crawling so these kids could run. So it's dope to see where it's at now. I think, you know, from a business standpoint, it's a great opportunity for artists who don't really, maybe they don't initially have the reach or have the buzz to get people's attention. But because the IP, right, the different anime that exists, these intellectual properties have huge fan bases. So if you're a person that got talent and you also happen to love this thing, and you find a way to use your talent to highlight this thing that you love, other people who love it get to see that. Now you start to build a name for yourself. And so that's a great pathway for so many young artists on the come up. You know, and so that's interesting to see how a lot of people are kind of really building a name for themselves around these things that their fans are. I'm not going to lie and and say I can drop a million of the names because it's so much.
Yeah,
like it's a lot. It's a lot. You know what I mean? But I've definitely come across some stuff that's caught my eye from time to time, and you know, salute to everyone who's doing that. I just love that people can walk in their truth and celebrate the things that make them unique and the things that make them feel good, and be able to do it in a way that reaches so many people. So that's dope.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
So you've been to Japan before.
Yes.
You have like a steady working relationship with Japan and mostly with Japanese artists, I would say. Do you feel that because of how, let me word this right. Because it's not necessarily, I would say, a stigma, but it's more so there's little connectivity between how the West views rap and just hip hop beats overall versus how Japan does. Because from interviews and just deep diving that I've done, when it comes to like how the music flow and how rap and how their lyricism works over there, a lot of their talking points are more political based, I would say. Like it's less like how over here where you would have people like, you know, before we had like money, drugs, cars, and whatnot. Now it's like, all right, yeah, let's party, this, that, and the third. Like a lot of it for Japan was a lot of it like, yo, cities impoverished, we're having hurricanes and earthquakes nonstop, our government's not doing anything. It's more politically charged. They use it as an outlet for like a loud voices scream rage, basically. That's the best as I can describe it. And a lot of the Japanese artists that I've grown up with, so you have guys like Shingo 2, Jin, ECD, rest in peace to that guy. A lot of the artists and whatnot, they've used their talents, their voices and whatnot to speak out. Would you recommend for the new generation, especially now with how the world is, how interconnected an artist, or rather just how a fan base can be from the United States all the way to Japan, how you've seen how popular something like, say, Demon Slayer is in Jujutsu Kaisen, where now you have fans who are eclipsing, in some cases, the Japanese audience. And now it's like a worldwide phenomenon. Before it was kind of niche. Do you feel as if rap in Japan can sort of do the same for over here?
So, I mean, so it's a couple things. I do, like, I see what you're saying. I do think, like, as somebody who spent a lot of time out there, I think, you know, it's kind of like, was it grass always greener, right? Like, I think we kind of, what I noticed with a lot of Japanese acts, they're not necessarily dedicating a lot of the money of their, or like for their budget to promoting out here. So a lot of times what's happening is fans out here, we kind of get access to certain things through different channels, folks who are actively looking for it. And those outlets and those people, they kind of they're kind of grooming us, so to speak, right, and curating a bit. So a lot of times it feels as though certain types of stuff is the main thing that's kind of being pushed out there, where like I kind of push back on that. It's not fully true, because a lot of their mainstream stuff out there, which is really, really big in that particular country, but again, is not being pushed here, is very much doing a lot of the same stuff in some ways. It's not maybe as based as heavily on violence per se, but it's still a ton of party stuff for them. It's still not everything is always deep. There's some surface level stuff out there too, for sure. I feel like that's major label stuff around the world. I was in Romania talking to Romanian artists, same thing. You know what I'm saying? I was in Uganda talking to Uganda artists, mainstream stuff, same thing. So, I feel like there's some truth to what you're saying in terms of what we're seeing, but a lot of the acts you're naming, like Shingo operates mostly independent. And of course, he's legendary worldwide because of his contributions to hip hop in general, specifically what he did with Samurai Champloo. But he's largely like an indie artist who who absolutely controls how he's going to be marketed, what he has to say, what he wants to talk about. Jin, even though Jin's not Japanese, he's Chinese. When he first came out, when he was signed to major labels, he wasn't talking about those things as much. As he's grown, there's been a lot more like focus on his faith and his personal journey and stuff through life and what he's been through. I feel like that changes, and you see that as artists get older too. If you're lucky enough to grow older in this industry, that's I feel like a natural progression. So I say all that to say this. For the younger artists, no matter where you are in the world, but of course we'll start at home. If you're here, one of the things that Chuck D from Public Enemy said to me when we met, he basically encouraged me. He was like, "Man, what you doing right now?" And I think I was late 30s when we met, and he was just like, "Man, keep doing what you're currently doing in terms of the subject matter, the type of music you're making, like the thought-provoking stuff and like reflective music." He's like, "Because if you stay on that path you're on, you'll have a 50-year career." See what I'm saying? Like, he's like, "Man, so he was like the way to ensure longevity is basically like have some real substance, right? Have something to say. And it doesn't mean you got to be like super political all the time or be trying to save the world with every bar you write. But just recognize that recognize that you do have the power to affect people's lives in a positive or negative way. You have far more power than you realize making your art. Doesn't matter if you're making music, visual art, whatever. You never know the impact you're going to have. But I think it's time for a lot of artists, and you don't have to wait till you get older to realize this. Even as you're younger, you can impact people's lives in a significant way. So the greatest way for us to change that industry is for younger artists to start to recognize that a bit sooner. And for the older artists to not be out here being overly judgmental of younger artists for making the type of music they make, because we all had our young times too. You know what I mean? Like, I started out as a battle rapper, fam. It wasn't always world peace, and I love women, blah blah blah. I was like, "You whack, man." You know what I'm saying? It was going in, son. Like, really, just like whoever's in front of me, it's destroying them. Like that was it. And so, as a dude from Maryland originally, and then moving to New York, living in Brooklyn, I felt like I had to carry where I was from on my shoulders and be the best representation of that when I got there. And that meant coming to them ciphers and meaning business. So
we are pretty hostile over there in Brooklyn. We're Brooklyn natives. So
right.
It's life for us.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to thank you for taking just the smallest amount of time that you have in your schedule to have this brief moment with us.
Thank you.
We're going to be cutting it here. Once again, fans back at home, I thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch us over here clown around, have some questions for the man. Again, substantial. If you want to find any of his socials, we're going to have all the links down here. Listen to some tracks, support the brothers, support the movement, everything. And again, this is Necro here with Geeks of the Round Table, and we'll see you next time.
Adultish out now.
Peace.